Live from Moscow, this is RT. I'm Rory Souchet with your worldwide headlines. Thank you for joining us today. And we start with our breaking news this hour. Russia says its offer of asylum to Edward Snowden, but only if he stops leaking information. That has now been rejected by him. RT's Anissa now joins us here with the story on RT. Anissa, it's Rory Souchet in the studio. Can you bring us up to date on this? What do you know now?
Yeah, this just in that Edward Snowden has officially rejected an offer that he could find asylum in Russia and stay in Russia, according to conditions that Vladimir Putin announced on Monday. He has rejected it because of those conditions, the conditions being that he was welcome to stay in Russia if he was willing to quote, harming Russia's U.S. partners. Now, Snowden has said that based on these conditions, he doesn't want asylum in Russia. This is as his options of where he possibly could go and get political asylum are narrowing down by the day. More and more countries are becoming reluctant to help him in any way, to sort of reach out to him. Vladimir Putin on Monday also said that the U.S., that they would never give anybody up, that they've never given anybody up, and that the U.S. would never give anybody up to them. And in fact, the conditions of extradition for Russia were highlighted by President Putin's spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, pointing out that Russia, first off, doesn't extradite anybody to a country that has the death penalty, and they don't extradite as a principle. They exchange. So this is looking like the situation is going to become more and more difficult. Russia was possibly one of the places where Snowden could come, possibly be protected if he was willing to stop his work. Obviously, he's not ready to do that.
All right, so Anissa, the latest on this breaking news is the former NSA whistleblower, Edward Snowden, has rejected Moscow's offer for him to stay in Russia. The offer basically saying you can stay here if you stop damaging ties between Moscow and Washington and if you stop doing your leaks as well. All right, RT's Anissa Nawe, the latest on this breaking news. Thank you. For the meantime, though, the American President Barack Obama, well, he's in a state of damage control. And this after the latest bunch of damning revelations from Edward Snowden, suggesting Washington has been spying on its EU allies. Obama said, well, this is how things are usually done when it comes to big politics, and European states are doing exactly the same thing. Well, even the UN chief is trying to distance himself and the international body, as RT's Marina Portnaya reports.
United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon is urging nations to protect the integrity of diplomatic missions on their soil. The UN chief's comments come amid allegations that the U.S. has been spying on the European Union and other allies. A report by German weekly Der Spiegel says that the National Security Agency bugged the EU's mission in Washington, D.C., and also hacked into its computer system to be able to access emails and other internal documents. The EU delegation at the United Nations was reportedly subject to similar surveillance. Citing classified documents leaked by NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden, the Weekly says that France, Italy, and Greece are among the 38 U.S. surveillance targets. Now, while the news has blindsided and shocked many European leaders, U.S. President Barack Obama has downplayed the surveillance story, saying that it's basically political protocol between friends.
They're going to be trying to understand the world better and what's going on in world capitals around the world from sources that aren't available through the New York Times or NBC News. That they're seeking additional insight beyond what's available through open sources. If that weren't the case, then there'd be no use for an intelligence service. I guarantee you that in European capitals, there are people who are interested in, if not what I had for breakfast, at least what my talking points might be, should I end up meeting with their leaders.
But not everyone is seeing the circumstance so casually. Greece's foreign ministry says it will be investigating reports that its embassy in Washington and UN mission in New York were being spied on by the NSA. According to the Guardian newspaper, the eavesdropping of the Greek UN mission was known as Powell, and the operation against its embassy was known as Klondike. And Snowden Well, that's just the name of the American that leaked the surveillance information that the world is now talking about. Reporting from New York, Marina Portnaya, RT.
And the spy leak has left a massive trade agreement between the US and the European Union now hanging by a thread. A German politician and member of the European Parliament, Rebecca Harms, believes a lack of trust between the powers could end up killing the deal.
This is a huge spying attack from the United States, helped especially by the United Kingdom, against their friends in the European Union. We have certain instruments, as least I, as a Green member of the European Parliament, see those instruments. We have two agreements in between USA and also Europe on data. So this is the SWIFT agreement and also the agreement of the data in the international flights, PNR. We could stop those agreements, and as Green, I'm convinced that we should not open the negotiations on TTIP, this United States-EU trade agreement, because this is also very, very sensitive when it comes to data protection. There is a complete different concept of privacy and protecting citizens' freedom also in the European Union compared to the United States.
All right, a recap of our breaking news for you this hour here on RT. A presidential spokesperson says Edward Snowden has rejected asylum in Russia. The surveillance whistleblower reportedly found conditions disagreeable, one of which was that he was to stop leaking information. Nevertheless, we also heard that his extradition is out of the question, as Russia does not extradite to any country that has the death penalty. All right, now we can take this a bit further here on RT, and we can get some Asian perspective on all of this and cross live to Steve Zhang, Professor of Contemporary Chinese Studies and Director of the China Policy Institute at the University of Nottingham. Hello to you, sir. Thank you for joining us on the program today. China reportedly among the states which Edward Snowden applied to for asylum. Do you think Beijing perhaps might open the doors and let him in?
No, I don't think Beijing is about to open its door and let Mr. Snowden back onto Chinese territories. The Chinese government, if they had wanted to get whatever they might have wanted to get from Mr. Snowden, they would have already got those information. Mr. Snowden going to China would only cause trouble for China.
But now the Chinese authorities, at first, they seem to be quite loyal to the leaker. Otherwise, why would he choose to speak out while he was on their territory in Hong Kong?
Well, it was incredibly useful windfall for the Chinese government when Mr. Snowden spoke out. And the fact that he spoke out from a Chinese territory and making it clear that one of those countries that were being spied on was China, and that include even a Chinese university. That was just really useful basis for the Chinese government to counter the American claim of Chinese cyber espionage against the United States.
But do you think, though, that some of Edward Snowden's revelations actually worked in China's favor?
Oh, it certainly worked in China's favor, because the reality is that in this world, everybody who's got the capability spies on everybody else. The issue really is one of whether one can claim the moral high ground. The United States has been claiming that moral high ground, well, at least until Mr. Snowden make his revelations, which really weakens the American claim to the moral high ground. And this is what makes him so useful from the Chinese perspective.
All right, let's address the issue of the latest we've just heard here at RT, that Edward Snowden has withdrawn his asylum request in Russia. Why has he found it so hard to stop releasing anti-American information?
Well, the value of Mr. Snowden's and his capacity to stay in the limelight depends on him being able to say that he's got more to say. Once he's got nothing to say, then his value falls. Then it's really just a matter of how he will be dealt with. and whether the Americans will be dealing with him in accordance with American law and all the other diplomatic wrangles that will be involved in getting Mr. Snowden to face the justice system in the U.S. So he has a vested interest in keep going.
All right, Steve Zhang, Director of the China Policy Institute at the University of Nottingham, thank you for sharing your time with us here on RT today. Well, a recap of our breaking news for you this hour here on RT. A presidential spokesperson says Edward Snowden has rejected asylum in Russia. The surveillance whistleblower reportedly found conditions disagreeable, one of which was that he was to stop leaking information. And nevertheless, we also heard that his extradition is out of the question, as Russia does not extradite to any country that has the death penalty.